Hey, what's up guys, John here. New York Times and Barron's reported that homelessness has hit an all-time high all throughout America. Los Angeles, New York City, Chicago, Atlanta.
The number of homeless people on the streets and in shelters across the U.S. increased significantly this year.
The number of Americans living without homes, in shelters, or on the streets continues to rise at an alarming rate.
You look at every single city, Austin, Texas, homelessness is through the roof. But when you look at what's happening, what the solution to this homelessness situation is, it's really shocking. And it's going to be a complete game changer for landlords nationwide that are already struggling with increased insurance, taxes, and mortgage rates, and with tenants that are struggling as well, given the high cost of living and the changing job market. Increased utility bills, increased insurance for their vehicles. Everything is getting more expensive, yet incomes are falling. When you look at what's happening and you look at the solution being brought to you by the Housing and Urban Development Division, Department of Energy, and the White House, you're going to see something massive that's coming for the U.S. housing market and real estate market. In this video, I'm going to break it down and show you exactly what's going on. Please hit the like button. Hit the like button. YouTube will share this content to educate more people about what's going on in America's economy. And if you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video. Schedule a free strategy session. Take a look at this. So, I mean, it's very fascinating. It all came out yesterday. Housing or homelessness rose to a record level this year, government says, since they started in 2007. And there's a report right here. It's this report, the 2023 Annual Homelessness Assessment Report. And Barron's reported the same exact story right here. Number of homelessness people hits record, came out yesterday. But when you look at what came out in May, and you start looking at what's happened in July, and you start connecting the dots here, you're going to see very, very clearly what's about to happen here. So, the president's fiscal year 2024 budget proposes unprecedented investments not only to urgently address homelessness, but also to prevent homelessness, including through additional housing vouchers, emergency rental assistance, increase in supply of affordable housing, and establishing a guarantee of rental assistance. Now, if you're a landlord right now, and you maybe overpaid for property last couple of years, and you're looking at your costs continuing to rise with insurance and taxes, and you're starting to see more and more and more tenants falling behind on rent, what are you going to look to do? You're going to look for guaranteed income. That's what you're going to look for. And you're going to start seeing many landlords leaning on Section 8 in the coming year or two. They're going to have no choice but to do it, because if they don't do it, there's a really big curveball and there's a really big downside. And I'm going to get into that in a second. So today, the Biden-Harris administration will announce the launch of All Inside, a first of its kind initiative to address unsheltered homelessness across the country. All Inside is a key part of All In, the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness, which sets a goal, a bold goal, to reduce homelessness 25% by 2025 and ultimately build a country where every person has a safe and affordable home. How can that be? How can that be? Because not all homeless people want to live inside of a home. Some homeless people prefer to be outdoors. Some homelessness is because of mental disorder. Some people have their own situation, and even when provided housing, they don't want to live there. But when you have a situation where you have this rising cost of living, and not many people can comfortably afford to go rent, everyday market rent housing in, Miami or Los Angeles, one of these expensive cities, how can you guarantee this? How can you guarantee it? Because there's already a bunch of cities that already signed on to this to reduce homelessness. Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Metro, Seattle, state of California. These are all expensive locations, by the way. So how can they reduce homelessness by, doing what they're calling the All Inside program? Well, it's going to be through taxpayer revenue doing Section 8 rentals. And Section 8 rentals is going to be such a game changer. Now, if you look at what they're doing here, they have something called a Renter Bill of Rights, which is right here, which is going to allow tenants to unionize or organize, meaning that, if you have a triplex or fourplex, you could have 2 or 3 tenants go on strike, and essentially the landlord can't collect rent, or they have eviction protection, diversion relief. There's education, enforcement, enhancement of rights, a bunch of different provisions. But imagine this: imagine you are a landlord and you're going for market rate housing, market rate housing and that tenant stops paying you, and there's a White House Blueprint Bill of Rights that is national, well, you're in a bunch of trouble, right? If you don't have the cash, you're not going to be able to pay the rent or pay your mortgage. So that's going to be a really big problem. But if you are a landlord, you have Section 8 rentals, and you have guaranteed income coming in, if they don't pay you, and you're missing out 5, 10, 15, 20% of the rent, but you're getting guaranteed 80% or 90% from the government, you could probably make it another day. But when you look at what's happening here, it's quite shocking. So this is from the Housing and Urban Development. This is HUD.gov right here. I'll pull it down so you can see the URL. There's a bunch of new changes that are going to come here. And so what I think is going to happen here, this is what I believe is going to happen. I believe 2024, 2025, we're going to see millions of landlords, a lot of Airbnb investors turn landlords. We're going to start seeing a lot of people that overpaid for properties that they simply can't hold on to them because the rising cost of insurance and taxes on their primary residence is too much. They're going to start renting it out Section 8. We're going to start seeing so much demand for Section 8 rentals. But at the same exact time, you have a commercial real estate crisis that's folding around office buildings nationwide. And according to HUD.gov, with high rates of commercial vacancies across the country, we see a tremendous opportunity for conversions to residential housing. The White House Domestic Chief of Domestic Policy Advisor, Nara Tindem, said on the call with reporters, the Department of Housing and Urban Development also unveiled an $85 million competitive grant program to goad state and local governments into removing barriers to affordable housing and including restrictive zoning. At the same time, the White House is also issuing $35 billion to investors and developers to reconvert offices to residential housing. So when you have a situation where the government's going to supply the funding, more than likely that finished product is going to become Section 8. More than likely. If this is with the movement is this Section 8. They're not just going to allow a developer to take over this property and then convert it into $5,000 a month one bedrooms. I don't believe so. Especially when you look at what they're doing right now with Airbnbs. It's very interesting because this came out about 10 days ago, December 6th. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, look, if you're not making the same amount of money you were making before in Airbnb in short-term rentals, when the market and the economy is booming, do it Section 8. Do it Section 8. And we'll pay you a one-time fee between $2,000 and $18,000. Like, that is substantial. For a landlord that's struggling, hey, we'll give you a check for $15,000. People are like, oh yeah, that's amazing. Please give me that $15,000. I need that money, and then they'll keep it as a Section 8, right? So it's a one-time incentive, and then they will get Section 8 recurring rental income coming in from this. Now this is happening in North Carolina. I believe this is going to be happening in a lot of other markets. But when you look at what's happening in the rental market right now, where they say, Wall Street Journal came out this morning, despite record home prices, housing is about to drag inflation down, meaning rents are going to continue to fall. Because if you look at a 50-year high in apartment construction and you have all these developers that need to refinance their loans, $2.7 trillion in commercial loans needs to get refinanced between now and 2027. So basically the next 3 years. So when you look at this, you're going to have all of this new inventory hit the market. You're going to see a lot of banks pulling back on funding because a lot of these deals don't pencil, and you're going to see a lot of landlords desperate to secure a good tenant or a tenant that's going to pay. Section 8 checks those boxes, right? So you're going to see so much demand to Section 8, and a lot of tenants that are simply unable to pay rent, they're going to prioritize feeding themselves over feeding their landlord. Evictions filing soar over 50% above pre-pandemic levels in some cities. Now, what I believe is going to happen here, it's going to be very interesting. It's not just Section 8 is going to be the answer to everything. I believe what's going to happen is Section 8 is going to be a great tool for the next 2-3 years. A lot of people are going to lean on it, and it's going to be an amazing viable option for these landlords. But there's going to be a big curveball, and this is what that curveball looks like. This is according to HUD.gov. By the way, this isn't an opinion. HUD.gov, this is HUD and Department of Energy announced a new partnership to decarbonize the U.S. building sector, right? This is also a partnership with the White House, so this isn't some, one operation. I mean, they're all working together here. HUD also announced that they are joining the White House, and how this works is near zero emissions and resilient buildings are the new normal in the next 6 years. So I believe what's going to happen next 2-3 years is going to be amazing for Section 8. But then they're going to really start pushing in that these properties that are getting Section 8 subsidies need to be energy efficient, need solar. You're going to need heat pumps. You're going to need, you're going to have to hit certain So you're going to need certain permits. Everything's going to have to go up to code. Everything's going to be net zero. So there's going to be costs that are going to be going into these properties to be able to, I believe, keep the checks coming. So the building breakthrough mobilizes international collaboration to accelerate the transition of the building sector to zero emissions. The new partnership that we are announcing today underscores a strong and enduring commitment to energy efficiency and climate resiliency for our nation's communities, homes, buildings, and infrastructure. It also underscores our commitment to sharing research on climate impacts faced by those most at risk, said the U.S. Secretary of Housing and Development, Marcia Fudge. HUD will continue to work closely with the Department of Energy, fortify homes and communities across the country, ensuring they are prepared to respond to the challenge posed by climate through migration, adaptation, and resilience. So I believe there's going to be some really, really big changes coming to housing. I believe now with the rising cost of living, most people making $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month, a couple years ago that was a good income, are struggling. Right? They're struggling. You have 43.5 million Americans that are, now paying student loans, $503 a month. It's substantial. 2 out of 3 Americans cannot pay a $400 emergency expense. How are they going to pay $503 a month on a reoccurring basis? They're not going to be able to. That's why you look at credit card defaults, they're continuing to rise. Auto loan defaults are continuing. We're going to start seeing more and more and more of this, and landlords are going to be pushed into a corner where they're going to say, Section 8, please help me. Please help. And they will. They will, I believe, for the next couple of years, and then come the property upgrades. So position yourself. I believe there's going to be a lot of money to be made if you play this right, but if you don't and you miss something, it could change the game for you. Drop below. Let's have a conversation. Where do you see all this going? Hit the like button. If you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for this massive wealth transfer, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. You can click the link in the description just below this video, schedule a free strategy session with myself and my team. And we just hired two new employees or team members that used to work directly with Equifax doing disputing, so you can go over your credit report with them, and they'll be able to tell you what they believe we can do and possibly can't do for you. Everyone's situation is different, so you can book a call below by clicking the link in the description. I'll catch you in the next video.